There are two things on this bank that are very subtle signs that tell you it's a good winter spot. The first is this tiny little creek coming in. That little notch is going to provide a high water refuge for fish. There's current blowing by out here, but in higher water they can tuck up in there and be out of the current. The second thing is a bunch of debris right here that shows where there was a big eddy in a recent high water event. There's a bunch of trash and branches and all kinds of stuff up in there, and those only collect where an eddy forms. And you can't really tell because 7 feet off the bank there's good current blowing past here, but obviously in higher water when they need that refuge, you got two things there for them. It's out of range of where I got the camera pointed, but right here next to me, turtle probably about that big came to the surface, looked at me briefly and went right back under. I'm sitting over the remains of an old grass bed, and there's minnows just coursing through these old stalks. Alright, this one ran out into deeper water, but he was up shallow, which is a very common thing for them to do in the winter. They run up shallow. Hi there. Eating a bird. He was getting up in the grass stalks, in the old grass beds, to eat those minnows I saw up in there. Get back in there and eat them. Go get them. Get bigger. Okay, the most critical part of pattern development. Go to the place where you just caught it, make observations. My observations about this spot are the same as most of the ones, actually all of the ones I've caught today. This is an old grass bed, and that fish was on the downstream side of it. The one I got before that, same thing, near the grass bed where all these minnows are warmed up, energized by this warming trend, and they're in there eating them. My thumb. Fat. Look at that belly. That's why they get so fat in the winter. All the food that's in that belly takes them a long time. With the cooler water, it slows their metabolism down. Their metabolism is definitely temperature linked, so I think they eat well in winter. It just stays on them. All right, it's time to put a summary on the day. Got 4 fish today. All of them hit the winter kill colored bird rigged on the dragon head. A minnow looking profile, and it matches the places that they were. Where I found the minnows, in little dead grass beds like this one right here. I pulled the minnow profile bait through there, and they were either on the downstream or upstream side as it came through. I'd pull it through and then let it sit there, and that's where the food was, and that's where the hits came from. They were there, they were shallow because it was warm. We've had a 3-day warming trend, 3 days where we've had 50 degrees or more, including today's the 4th, and it's activated a lot of things living in this river. You know, we saw the turtle. We've had these stoneflies coming up and crawling all over my face. The minnows were active. Certainly the bird life has been active here today. And of course the smallmouth. So make sure that when you're lucky enough to have a warming trend, and you're fishing your usual winter haunts, winter holes, don't stay deep. You'll catch them deep when you're in the 30s, but when it's, when you have that warming trend, come shallow adjacent to the deep areas, like these grass beds right here. Birds and dragonheads available at confidencebaits.net.